Hey everyone, it's me Erica. I know it's been forever since I've made a video. Let's just forget 2015 ever happened because I only read like 4 books and none of them were that amazing. My only honorable mention would be Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I thought that was really good. The ending was so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really recommend it, plus the movie too was really good. We're not here to talk about 2014 anymore because we're in 2015 now and we only have weeks left in it, and I haven't made a video, but I have been reading. So I wanted to share with you all the books that I've read so far in 2015. This will be a January through November wrap up, so yeah, let's get into it. The first book I read this year was Ignite Me by Tahara Mafi, and I know what you're thinking. Erica, the last time I watched a video, you were raving about the Shatter Me series. What took you so long to read the last one? And I really do not have a good answer for that. Maybe I was just in denial of the series ending, and I was like, if I don't read it, it hasn't ended, right? But whatever, I ripped that band-aid off and I finally finished it, and I thought it was a fantastic ending to the series, the trilogy, and it was just such an emotional roller coaster, and Warner was great, and you got to really see Juliet's character arc and development throughout the whole series. It just all comes together and you're just like, wow, everyone has grown. It was the perfect ending to the series. It was all wrapped up, but it was still kind of open-ended, so you know their story still kind of goes on. So if Tahara Mafi really wanted to write another book, she could, and she should. Yeah, 5 out of 5 stars, duh. And this really made me want to go back and reread Shatter Me just to re-experience it. Yeah, it was just so good. Definitely my favorite trilogy that I've read ever so far. Fantastic. The second book I read is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and I know you're thinking, read? Don't you mean reread, Erica? No. This was my first time reading Harry Potter, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad I finally read it. I got the box set of these beautiful editions for my birthday, and that really pushed me into wanting to read it. And so obviously 5 out of 5 stars for this. I remembered a bunch from the movie, so I think that kind of took away from my overall reading experience, but that doesn't mean the story was any less amazing or anything like that. This book also made me really want to dive more into fantasy this year. I thought fantasy was the genre that I hated the most. Like if someone was like, what's your least favorite genre, I would say fantasy or historical fiction. I don't know why, because that was wrong. Pretty much all I read after Harry Potter was fantasy. The next book that I read this year was The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, and I borrowed this from a friend. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a really great coming-of-age story, and for some reason it really reminded me of Catcher in the Rye. I really enjoyed the characters, especially the main character, which I cannot remember his name. That's cool. It really was a true depiction of high school, and I really wish I had a teacher that would just hand me books and be like, read them. I'd be like, friends forever? Yeah, okay. I really liked how you got to see the main character develop throughout the story personality-wise, but also in his writing, because the story is told through letters, and I thought that was really unique. The reason I docked it a star was because it was a little too dark for me, and I understand that no one's life is rainbows and butterflies, but I don't know, I just really didn't enjoy it fully because it was so dark. The next book I read was Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I read this on my Kindle. Red Queen is a fantasy about this world where there are 2 types of people. You have the Silverbloods and the Redbloods. And the Silverbloods have special powers, and the Redbloods are just normal human beings. This huge class dividing them, and they're all royalty Silverbloods, special privileges, and the Red are pretty much just working for the Silvers. Our main character, Mare, is a red blood, and she has a chance to make a living as being one of the servants in the castle for the Silver Bloods. Despite her red blood, she possesses a power as well, and I heard a lot of hype about this book, and since I was in the mood for fantasy, I decided to why not start off with a new release. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4.5 stars. I thought it was really good in the beginning, but it didn't wow me to the end, and the plot twist totally caught me off guard, and the ending was just so open. I cannot wait to read the second one that comes out in like 2 months or something like that. Next book I read after that is Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. This one, also 5 out of 5 stars. I didn't remember the movie pretty much at all, so I enjoyed the reading experience of this one more. If I had to decide between the first one or the second one, which one I liked more so far, I would choose the second one just because it was more a good reading experience. It's really growing to love the characters, and we all know it's great. We all know it's great. The next book I read is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This really set the baseline for the whole series. Pretty much kicks off with a princess named Cleo from Morenos, and she goes to Palesia, Palesia, that one, and her friend pretty much murders this wine seller's son, and it just kicks off this whole adventure kind of deal. And the overhanging plot is they're all looking for this Elementia, which is kind of this magical power of the elements, and it's been gone for quite a while now. The story goes on, you kind of figure out what's the deal with that. My favorite character is definitely Magnus, and I really just loved reading about Limros and all that stuff. It was definitely my favorite place to read about too. The story was really gripping from just the very first page. Even though there is so many characters in this book, you don't feel lost, and even if you do get a little bit lost, she has a little cast from each kingdom that just tell you the names and who they are in general. And I really enjoyed that. In the beginning, when you're just kind of diving into the world, you can flip back and just really get a good grasp of who everyone is. Yeah, again, 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this one. Next book I read was also in my Kindle, and it was Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. And I have heard so many great things about this series, and since I was in a massive mood of fantasy, I decided to dive into this series, and I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. We follow our main character, Selena, as this assassin background, and she gets taken out of this kind of slave work camp kind of deal to compete to be the king's champion. And that's where it kind of kicks off. The book really wasn't what I was expecting. I just kind of went in it blind. I didn't really read the back. I was just like, everyone's talking about it, it's fantasy, let's go. And so it was different in a good way than what I expected. I really loved Selena. She was so kick-ass. I also loved Dorian and Kale. I side with Team Kale. The book was a little slow in the middle beginning, but that's the only issue I had with pacing. I did have an issue with kind of the magic. I felt like it was just kind of weird, especially near the end, and everything was just kind of up in the air. It was really intense. I was lost. I had a hard time picturing what was going on magic-wise. But nonetheless, it was extremely good. The next book I read was Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. This is the prequel series to the Mortal Instruments, and I have only read the first 2 in the Mortal Instruments. I really didn't want to pick up Throne of Glass, but I did want to get back into the Shadowhunter world, so I decided to pick up Clockwork Angel, and I think I liked this more than the Mortal Instruments books that I've read so far. I really liked Tessa. So far, Jem is my favorite, not Will, and I know that's probably going to change because everyone talks about Will, but right now, it's Jem. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to kind of read it in publication order, or if I'm just gonna keep going with this one because I really enjoyed this and it's fresh in my mind. There was a really nice plot twist at the end that I did not see coming at all. Yeah, it really made this book great. Great. The next book I read is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. Yes, we are in the summer months now, and of course I wanted to pick up some summer contemporary, and this obviously is perfect. I really enjoyed this. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and it really was the perfect summer read. Belly was a really relatable character between Jeremiah and Conrad. I prefer Jeremiah more. This book was a little heavier than I thought. It had some heavier undertone. It was still good. It wasn't too heavy for summer or anything like that. It just really got me in the mood to go to the beach. The next book I read was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. I liked this one a lot more than Throne of Glass. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars, totally a Team Kale all the way. There was so much mystery, and we got to have a look of all these creepy monsters, and it was just so cool, and you understand the magic system so much more. Fight scenes with Selena were just so kick-ass, and I really liked how we got more of that dynamic in her, because I feel like in Throne of Glass, it just kind of went by the wayside a little bit near the end. The next book I read was Attachments by Rainbow Rowell, or Rowell, one of those. We follow 3 characters. We follow Beth, Jennifer, and Lincoln. And Lincoln is kind of the security person who looks over emails to make sure everyone is using their email for business reasons and not for fun like Beth and Jennifer do. But for some reason he cannot delete their emails, and he reads them and slowly falls in love with one of the characters. I don't know, going into this book I really thought it was going to be the lovey-dovey, kind of cheesy, perfect romance, and I was really looking for that. And it kind of fell flat for me. I really enjoyed the main characters of Beth and her friend Jennifer, and I loved their email conversations, and I really liked Lincoln also. I thought they were all really great characters, and it really kept me enthralled, and I was laughing out loud at some points. But just the fact that the romance didn't blossom like I thought it would, it kind of didn't work for me. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, and that's not a bad rating at all. It just kind of wasn't what I expected, but unlike other books that I read this year, it was in a bad way. They did have some cute and funny moments that I really enjoyed, and so if you like Rainbow Rowell, I would go out, read this book for sure. Love just didn't come about the way I thought it would, but it was still good. The next book I read was Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, and 5 stars. I liked this one even more than Crown of Midnight. I just loved it. The world just really explodes, and you meet new characters in this book. You meet Manon and Rowan. Those 2 are my favorite characters definitely in the book. Manon's story is so enthralling, and I know some people don't like her, but I enjoyed her chapters a lot, and the ending was just crazy, and I just love endings that can just blow you away, you know, plot twists. Those are the books that really get me, and this one definitely got me. So glad I read this kind of near the middle of August, because I didn't have to wait so long for Queen of Shadows to come out. I just had to wait a week, but it was a painful week because I really wanted to read on in the story. I'm just so hooked. If you really didn't like Throne of Glass that much, I would definitely read on, because they seriously get better and better. No one is just saying that. The world explodes. It is totally different than it was in the beginning. You have such a narrow scope in the first book, and it just has blown up over these 2 books. Like, seriously, what? Read it. So in between my week of reading Heir of Fire and waiting for Queen of Shadows, I read Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, and this was such a good book. I've had this on my bookshelf for forever, and so many people were talking about it, and I just decided, why not? We follow our 2 characters of Amy and Roger, and they go on this road trip across the country because Amy is moving after her dad passes away, and Roger's going to stay with his father for the summer. So they just kind of hop in the car together and go. This book really makes you want to go on a road trip. You have so many cool pictures in here that just really gets you into this book, and it's just such a unique way of telling the story. This was just really cute and almost what I was looking for in attachments, you know, with the cutesy kind of romance, and the characters are just so real. They were really easy to love. It's definitely one of my new favorite contemporaries of all time. I understand what everyone's talking about with Morgan Matson, and I really want to check out her other books. So of course, the next book I read was Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas, the fourth one in the Throne of Glass series, and I also gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. I thought this was the best one yet, but looking back, I think I prefer Heir of Fire just a tad bit more, mostly because of that ending that really blew me away in Heir of Fire. But I'm officially Team Rowan now. Bye, Kale. Whatever. This book was just so action-packed. I feel like a lot of books just focus on building up to one big action, and that's the book, but this one had so many big, like, action points in it that the size of it really didn't matter to me for some reason. I just blew through it. It's like 664 pages, so it was really great to read it on my Kindle, even though when all these books come out, I'm definitely going to be buying a box set because this series is just too good not to have a physical copy of. Haltan, or whatever her name is, friggin' badass. She was so cool. You know, in the first book, you're just like, hate her, go away. But in this one, you come to really love her character and just root for her near the end. Certain characters meet, and the fighting scene between them were so good, but I just cannot wait for the next one. It's just gonna be so good, so great. Yeah. Sorry if the lighting has changed a little bit. We are getting some rain soon, so hopefully it's not too jarring of a difference. The next book I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. I was on a Sarah J Maas roll, and after finishing Queen of Shadows, I wanted something more from her, and this just seemed like the perfect option. This is a loose Beauty and the Beast retelling story that follows a girl named Farah. Their world is kind of mixed with fairies, but there is this wall that divides the two lands, and it's kind of like the humans kind of hate the fairies, and the fairies kind of hate the humans, so it's a lot of tension, and Farah is one of the humans that are not fond of the fairies whatsoever. And she likes to hunt. So on one hunting expedition, she sees a wolf and shoots it, but one of the rules of the land is you can't kill a fairy. And the wolf lands up to be a fairy, and this other fairy that happens to be the dead fairy's friend shows up on Farah's doorstep, and his name's Tamlin, and he says, you need to come with me since you killed my friend. And that's kind of where the story takes off, so you can kind of see where the Beauty and Beast retelling kind of comes in there. So yes, I had heard mixed things about this book before going into it. I heard that the beginning was slow, but the beginning was really good. But when I read it, I kind of felt different. Since my expectations were so low for the beginning half, I really enjoyed the beginning, and then when it got later, kind of fell flat for me. It still was really entertaining, but it wasn't as great as I thought it was going to be. And so it was kind of flip-flopped. I liked the beginning more than the end. I really like Farah encountering all these different kinds of fae, and just her and Tamlin's relationship growing and all that stuff. Really enjoyed the other characters in this book, Lucian and Alice. I truly don't know how I feel about this book, even though I really enjoyed it, and the more I think about it, the more I kind of want to up the rating a little bit. But overall, I gave this 3 stars because of kind of how it fell flat near the end, and I actually hated the ending. What happened with Farah, I really hated that ending. I didn't like how it was all handled and how it was resolved. Since the ending was not good at all, in my opinion, I don't know if I will read on. The only reason I would read on because of Resend or just learning about that other kingdom, Highburn or whatever. That's really it. but it was still really good. My expectations for the ending were just too high. But if you just go into this book open, realizing that the first part is kind of slow and it's a lot of like her learning about her surroundings and about the fairy world and all that stuff, then I think you would enjoy it, and just know that it does get more entertaining near the end, but I don't think it's as entertaining as everyone is saying. So I would give this book a shot if you really like Sarah J Maas or want a good yet different Beauty and the Beast retelling. I would give this one a shot. Just keep this in mind before you read it. The next book I read was again on my Kindle, and it was Vicious by V.E. Schwab, or Victoria Schwab, and I really enjoyed this book. It follows Eli and Victor. They are in college and to do their kind of like end of the year thesis kind of thing. Eli decides he wants to look into extraordinaries and if they really exist, that kind of deal, and Victor becomes interested and joins him on this. Through trial and error, they become extraordinary, and it kind of follows their story 10 years later when Eli is on a mission to get rid of every extraordinary person besides himself, and Victor has just gotten out of jail and he's like, okay, time to hunt down Eli. So they're kind of hunting down each other in a way. They used to be friends and now they're enemies, and the whole book flashes between 10 years into the future after they become extraordinary, which is the present, and then the past 10 years ago. So this book really reads like a movie and a flashback kind of point of view, but it works really nicely where you're not lost at all and all the plot kind of comes together really well, and I really liked it. I gave it a 4.75 stars. The only reason I docked it like a 4th star was because around 60% I felt like not enough was happening, but I think that was just me being impatient and I just needed to chill out. I really liked how this book wasn't too long. I think it was just under 300 pages, like 270, 260 or something like that. But you learn so much about these characters through the present and the past kind of flipping back aspect that even though the book is on the shorter side, you still get to know these characters so much, and they're so complex too, you know what I mean? They're not flat at all. They're so dynamic and they're so vicious and evil. None of them are the good guys. I loved the writing style in this book. It was so sophisticated. I think that might be because it's an adult book. I haven't read too much adult, but this really did feel mature, and I really liked the tone that the writing style brought to the book. My favorite characters are definitely Mitch, Sydney, and the dog, Dole. The ending of this book was so perfect. I don't know, I loved it. I just couldn't get over it, and I was fangirling hardcore about it. It was just, it was so good. So good. So good. So good. Next book I read was Everything by Nicola Yoon, and I loved this book. Kind of this whole year I was looking for that perfect romance, and I almost got it with Amy and Roger's epic Detour, but this one really hit the mark. Obviously I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorite books I read this year for sure, and it was just so perfect and so simple. If you're looking for some kind of epic, really plot driven contemporary, that's not what this is. It is just very simple. It just follows this girl named Madeline who has this disease where she's pretty much allergic to the outside world. So her mom has designed the house in a way where the air is filtered and it's safe and she can stay inside and live her life that way. And she has her nurse named Carla, and that's kind of her life. And then a boy moves in next door named Ollie, and that's kind of where the story takes off. So it's definitely a romance book for sure, and I just thought it was just so beautiful. The writing was beautiful, and I really, really, really want to go back and just underline and tab this book to death. I read this in one sitting, and I am not a fast reader at all. Not that this book is very big, but I just could not put it down. So if you're looking for a very simple contemporary to just fall in love with, this is definitely the one that you should pick up. So I have read 18 books so far this year, and I'm really proud of that considering that I only read like 4 or 5 last year. I still have 1 month left and I've read like 1.5 so far, so there are a lot of readathons this month that I plan on participating in, and I will see you in my next video. It is definitely good to be back making videos again, and hopefully I can stick to it this time. Alright, I will see you later, guys. Bye!